You're joining All Things College and Career for in-depth stories and advice with your hosts, Meg Gary and Bobby Ryan, owners of Academic and Career Advising Services.
Hey everyone. Wow. Today we have such an amazing guest, Peter Economy. Wait till you meet him. He is a great guy. Meg and I had so much fun talking to him. And of course, we really get into all the great work Peter is doing. He has written some amazing books that he's published under his name, and he has been the ghostwriter for over 100 amazing books. So he has met tons of cool people, and what an interesting guy.
Yeah, so interesting. I just loved our conversation with Peter. He is actually the best-selling author of Managing for Dummies, which more than 60,000 copies sold globally, and Wait, I'm the Boss. And he is the leadership guy at Inc.com, which averages over 500,000 page views a month for his more than 1,500 columns published to date.
That's impressive, right?
Totally impressive, yeah. He routinely works with C-level execs and executive coaches and business consultants worldwide. And you can head on over to petereconomy.com and learn more about him.
Yeah, all kinds of great info on his webpage. And also today, we are interviewing Peter about his book, Wait, I'm Working with Who? Such a great title. I mean, he has the best title. So
yeah,
already you know he's a good writer. And in that book, he discusses all kinds of different types of jerks at work. So if that's you or someone you know, you might want to take a listen to this podcast and check it out.
Yeah, I think we've all worked with these jerks at work. But anyway, enough of the introduction. Let's get on to our fantastic conversation with Peter Economy.
Okay, let's do it.
Hello, Peter Economy. Welcome to All Things College and Career. Thanks so much for joining us on our podcast today.
Great to be here, Meg and Bobby. Fantastic. Thanks for inviting me.
So Peter, we're on Zoom, everyone. So Peter, I can see you have a little tan going. Where are we talking to you from today?
I'm in La Jolla, California, which is just part of San Diego, right next to the beach. So yeah, it's kind of going to be a beach day today.
Yeah, nice.
Oh my gosh, every day is a beach day in La Jolla.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it sure is.
Yeah, it's the jewel, right? I love La Jolla, and a great place to live for sure. So we're really excited to talk to you today. I mean, you've just written the book, Wait, I'm Working with Who? Which right away, that title just grabs me, pulls me in, because as soon as I read that, I'm thinking, I've said those words.
Yeah,
I've definitely said those words once or twice. So tell us how you decided to write this book.
Yeah, we've all said those words once or twice, and often many more. I do a lot of books on business and leadership and management. But, I think when I was thinking about the next book, I was thinking, what's something that would be kind of universally useful to people that, anybody, regardless of what their background is, what their work situation is, if they're graduating, looking for a job, whatever it might be, would find useful. And I'm the leadership guy on Inc.com. And as a part of that, I've written almost 1,500 articles. And I noticed that every time I did a book about, or an article about toxic workplaces and working with toxic people, that always got a lot of interest. I got a lot of clicks on those articles. So I said, maybe I should do a book about this, because I think people would find it of interest and actually put it to good use. So that's what got me interested in this particular topic this time.
That's so interesting. Some of the research I've read is working with a jerk at work basically is one of the number one reasons employees leave their job. Poor management, a jerk for a boss. So it seems like a pretty critical issue.
Yeah, and you're right, Meg. I mean, particularly that one study, I'm not sure who did it, if it was Gallup or somebody, but they found that the number one reason why people leave their job is because of a boss that's a bad boss. They've got a jerk for a boss, and that's the number one reason by far. So that's part of it too, is for bosses, are you being a jerk? And then what's happening to your place? So yeah, that's a huge thing.
And people that can manage in a way that gets a lot out of their employees, but still has that cohesive approach, probably is going to be a very valuable asset to an employer.
Oh, tremendous. Yeah. It's a fine line. And I was a manager for quite some time. And I don't think I was the best manager in the world, but I got the job done. And people liked working for me. So we've all had bad bosses. We've all had bosses that we just wanted to get the heck out of there. It's like, I just don't want to go to work today because my boss is not someone I want to work with.
It's funny because they say, you might not have been the best manager in the world, but you get the job done. I kind of feel that way about parenting. I might not have been the best parent in the world, but I think I got the job done.
I can relate to that. I've got 3 kids, and I look back on my parenting. I wonder if I could have done a better job.
Yeah, I mean, I think there could have been some adjustments there, but
got the job done.
I got the job done. I was in there trying. That's for darn sure.
Bobby has amazing sons. They're incredible.
Oh, good.
So,
Thank you. But she's a little biased there, Peter. So anyway, but anyway, so what I was going to say is that if you are maybe a terrible manager, or maybe you're kind of a jerk as a manager, the great thing about your book is that you have some areas in there that you can, well, first of all, when you go through and we'll get to this, the 16 personality types of a jerk, I love how at the end of each personality type, you have a little survey to answer the questions, are you or maybe a coworker doing this or that? And I love that because that's a little self-test. Right. That's a little check to see if that maybe you are indeed the jerk at work.
Right. Yeah. And it happens. I mean, that's the whole thing. I think that, one of the things I talk about in this book is being self-aware. Because for every boss that's out there that's a jerk, well, guess what? It might be you. So you need to be very self-aware. And when those signals are coming in, when people are telling you, or when you're walking down the hallway and somebody's, people start darting away, like trying to go somewhere else, trying to avoid you. That's a bad sign. You might want to be aware of it.
Did you ever see that movie Office Space?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And he's like, comes to the cubicle. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to stay through the weekend.
Exactly. Yeah.
That guy had no idea he was a jerk.
Yeah. And guess what? When you see that guy coming up, toward your cubicle on Friday, it's like I'm just going to dart out. I'm just going to get out of here before that happens.
That's what they're doing. They're hiding, doing anything they can. To get out of that situation.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to get into the 16 types of jerks that you talk about, and maybe we can just get into a few of them. We have a couple written down here that we liked, but is there any that you really would like to talk about the most?
Well, I think that some of my favorites, the credit thief.
Yeah.
And, I think that's really common. That's one that we see a lot of. I know I did when I was working in companies. You've always got someone who, you're on a team and your team is doing great stuff and everybody's pitching in. Actually, it's just kind of a rare thing. There's always people kind of hang back and try to coast along with the team. But let's assume you're on a team that everybody's pitching in. And, they make the presentation to some executive team or something, showing what the great work you did. And that one person sort of steps up and says, well, it was all about me. I'm the star. I'm the one who, got this over the finish line. And everybody's kind of looking, everybody else in the team's looking at each other going, wait a second, we were all a part of this too. But there's, that's one of those toxic people that really bugs the hell out of people is those credit thieves, the ones who try to keep a spotlight on them instead of their teammates and coworkers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's such an interesting way to put it, to keep a spotlight on themselves instead of their coworkers.
Yeah, and I think a talent of a good manager would be able to see kind of through that, right? I don't know, like maybe that one person. So you have a group of people and one person's always taking the credit. Maybe they deserve it or maybe they don't.
Yeah. And a lot of times, a manager can actually kind of call that out. So the manager can press that person. They can say, oh, tell me more about, the actual methodology or how you got to that answer. Why don't you walk me through how you got to that answer?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden that person starts stumbling. They start, well, wait, well, Susan over here. Yeah, she had to do this,
She might have done a little minute part.
A little bit, and then, Mark had to do the survey, and had to analyze the data. And, so, I think an astute astute manager will kind of sense that and start kind of pressing that credit thief and saying, well, tell me more. Let's hear more about how this all came about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that can really crush morale when somebody's getting all the accolades for work you actually did. So that's going to be a real toxic thing at work.
And it comes out, it's one thing to just have toxicity, but I think it comes out in ways that maybe you don't expect. So all of a sudden, people on that team start holding back. They start, disengaging from the work. I mean, you want your people, you want your teammates to be fully engaged and performing. But when someone else keeps stealing the spotlight, those other people say, maybe I'll just hang back. Maybe we'll let that person if they're going to take all the credit, they can do the work. How about that?
How about
that?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you really lose the engagement, the performance of everyone else on the team if you let that continue.
I like the chatter, and because that's just been something that's happened to me, is like you're into your work, you're trying to get stuff done, and you have the person hanging out in your cubicle or your office. I never had an office. I always had a cubicle. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not mad about that or anything. No, but no.
Yeah.
There's no lingering hostility.
There's no lingering hostilities there.
No, not at all.
No, but seriously, it's difficult. If it's once in a while, it's okay. But some people, that's their thing.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because, so many of us have started working at home, and, a lot of people have chosen to work for ourselves. That's something that as people graduate, as young people graduate from college, there's a decision. Do I work for somebody else, or do I start my own thing? Do I do my own thing? And part of doing your own thing might be working at home or working in a Starbucks or something, working remotely. And more companies are doing a hybrid work thing where they're going to allow employees to work remotely, at least part-time. So one of the things, I did a book called Home-Based Business for Dummies, where we talk about that, where people will interrupt you. They think, you're at home working, and they'll think, they're not actually doing anything. And your sister, your brother, your neighbor, your mail delivery person, or whatever it might be, we'll chat you up. They'll come over, they'll hang out. They're like, hey, what's going on? Let's talk. And it's like, well, wait a second, I'm working, just because I'm at home.
You're at home.
Yeah. Just because I'm at home. They'll think you're not working.
Or if you're a mom working at home, they think you're available for all the carpools and volunteer work,
Yeah, my wife had to fight that. I mean, my wife was working at home, and everybody thought she could be the call-up babysitter. Can you just watch my kid for a while? Can you? My kid needs to be picked up at school. Can you, pick up my kid? And it's like, no, I can't. Because I'm working. I'm actually working here at home. Just because I'm home doesn't mean I'm not at work.
Yeah.
My gosh, the jerks at work are becoming the jerks at home.
It is. That's the thing. I think we've crossed that line. We've crossed the Rubicon where we used to be able to divide work. We got in our cars, we got on the subway, we did whatever. Yeah. We went to work, and we were away from home. And now, and then we came home, and then we were home. But now we're 24/7 work between working at home ourselves or being on the phone. Our smartphones are always pinging us, getting emails. Again, my wife, she's like getting emails all the time. She likes to, respond to them, whatever time of the day it might be or the weekend. So we don't really have that dividing line anymore. And so that toxicity can kind of cross into our home life too, our personal lives more than ever.
That's so true, that people just assume that you're working nonstop when you work from home. And then there's the time zone thing. So, you guys, right. So, well, someone from the East Coast calling you up at 7 a.m. So you get that.
Yeah. And I work, I have clients, I'm a writer. I do a lot of ghostwriting books, and I have clients in Germany and Israel, you name it. I've got clients. Asia. I had a woman that I was working with who was in Japan, and talk about time zones. It's like, we're trying to coordinate our calendars.
Yeah. And I'd love to get into a little bit about your ghostwriting and writing.
Sure. I'd love to talk. I love to talk about that.
Yeah. But let's just talk about a little bit about some of the negative impacts that the jerks at work have on the morale, and also what people can do to make it a better work environment and
Right.
toss the jerks or recondition them at least.
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of research on this, and as you might imagine, and the statistics show that 2/3 of American employees report that at least at one time or another they've worked in a toxic workplace.
Yeah.
So 2/3 of us have worked in a toxic workplace. Then 1/4 of those people have worked in more than one toxic workplace. So 2 or more toxic workplaces. So it's really a pervasive thing. And the research shows that productivity has really suffered because of this. Just people who call in sick, who say, I don't want to go to work because I don't want to be there with this person, whether it's a boss or a coworker. It's almost $500 million a year of lost productivity because of this. So it's something that we need to do something about. It's something we can do something about. So that's the good news part about it.
So what are some of the things we can do about it?
Yeah, if you're the kind of the recipient of this toxic behavior, I've got a bunch of strategies. I have 8 specific strategies in the book, but let's talk about one of them, for example. One of the strategies is to refuse to play their game.
Yeah.
So, that becomes becoming aware of the game that's being played on you. And a lot of toxic people love to play the game. They love to push people's buttons. I mean, I had a person, I used to work in a job, one of my first jobs out of college. And this person that thought she should have had my job because I was brought in alongside her, and she thought she should have my job, which I was hired for. Yeah. And she would make a point of, in our staff meetings, trying to push my buttons. And she was pretty good at it. I mean, she would get a rise out of me every time. And my boss took me aside one day and said, you know what, this person is pushing your buttons and she's enjoying it. And you just need to be aware of this and not engage, not play the game. So it's figuring out what game is being played on you, being aware of it, understanding how this jerk is manipulating you, and then taking those buttons off of your back, or off your forehead, wherever that button may be. Take it off and refuse to play the game, because once you become aware of it, then you know what's happening and you can stop playing. And that person's either going to find someone else to play the game on, or whatever, they're just going to be a sad, toxic person until they find somebody else who responds the way you used to respond.
Right. And sometimes it's tricky to, maybe have to confront somebody, especially if you're not getting support from your manager or your boss, or maybe the jerk is your boss. I mean, I can remember one time I'm a mechanical engineer. And so I was asked to design something, and he wasn't my direct manager, but he was a high up guy, and he was anxious for it. He wanted it done soon. So he actually came in my office and sat down, and while I was watching me design, looking over my shoulder, and my coworkers are like, wow.
What is going on?
What does he do? I mean, and so finally though, I just turned around and said, look, if this is something you want quickly, and I know you do, the best thing you can do is step out of my office and let me work.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And that takes courage, and that's great. I mean, you've got to be courageous. I mean, you've got to have the courage to stand up for yourself and say, like you said, get off my back. I can't create when you're watching everything I do. It's just it's not going to work.
Yeah, the creative juices aren't flowing.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, so I think that's something else. That's another strategy I said is challenging the bad behavior. So you're actually taking the time, or being courageous enough to challenge it and standing up for yourself. And you've got to. I mean, this is something that it's difficult for people to do, because no one wants to make waves. No one wants to be considered to be a jerk themselves. But when it's a coworker, you need to let them know, this behavior you're doing isn't working for me. I can't, it's not helping me do my job. In fact, it's stopping me from doing a good job. And then when it's your boss, that takes that extra courage. I mean, to really stand up to your boss and you want to do it in a way that's really, I don't know if loving is the right word, but in a way that you're trying to help them, because obviously if they're being toxic with you, they're probably being toxic with other people too, your coworkers.
Right.
So you want to help them do better, and they will do better if they are aware of this behavior. They may not be aware of the behavior. I mean, a lot of people who are toxic aren't aware of it. They're not conscious of it. And you're actually helping them become conscious of a behavior they may not be conscious of.
Such a great point. Yeah.
And when is it okay to go to your boss's boss?
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
Get
I
prayed
guess
over.
right. You might have to, if there is a boss's boss, maybe,
Yeah.
you know.
I think the question becomes, is this bad enough that I'm getting ready to leave this company, that I'm
Right.
getting ready to look for another job? I think when you're starting to think in those terms that, maybe I just can't stand working for this person, and I've already talked to them, they're not changing their behavior, and maybe I'm going to start looking for another job. When you've reached that point, I think that's the time you better start talking to your boss's boss, because you
Yeah.
really, if you don't want to leave the
You're
job,
out
if
the
you want,
door anyway.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're out the door anyway. So what have I got to lose? I
That's a
mean,
good point. Very good point.
I would go up, skip over my boss and talk to my boss's boss or my boss's boss's boss or
Right.
whoever it might be, because
right.
again, you want the company to do well. You want the organization to win. And with this person behaving the way they are, they're not going to win. So you're not the only one who's dealing with this behavior.
I think if you started a conversation with those words with most people, I want this company to win, I want this company to do well, that's the right tone to set before you air your grievance, right?
Yeah, it's not about you.
Right.
I mean, it might really be about you,
Right.
but it's about the company as a whole and your coworkers. I mean, they're all suffering. I assume most of them are suffering, and the company's not going to perform as well, and it's not going to compete as well in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
Great point. Tell us what you mean about the concept of hiring slow and firing fast.
Yeah, that's something that every company should do more of. I think that, and especially now, I think, people are talking about it's harder to find people to work. Companies are scrambling around trying to find employees. I mean, here in San Diego area, I know that I keep getting pinged with emails from the restaurants I go to saying, they're all having job fairs. They're offering bonuses. They're offering people, money to find people to work for them. Yeah. So I think people are kind of desperate to hire people right now. And I understand that to some degree, but you got to take time to find the right people. It's not enough to just hire people and get a warm body in that chair. You got to find the right person, because it costs a lot of money when you lose somebody, when you have to fire someone or they go away because they're not the right fit. It costs a lot of money to replace that person. I mean, you've lost all the time of training them. You lost all the time you've invested. Maybe your team has invested in bringing them on board. And when they leave, you've lost. I mean, I've seen statistics in the past where like $50,000 right off the bat of your recruiting time and onboarding time that's lost.
Yeah.
So take the time to hire the right person. Hire slow. Interview multiple interviews, multiple layers of interviews with multiple people on your team. Don't just have one interview. Not a 15-minute interview and you're hired. Kind of thing. You really need to have multiple people on your team interview them and make sure that they're the right fit. Do your due diligence. I mean, today, obviously, we all know that you should look at their social media. I mean, that's part of the hiring process nowadays. Yeah. Go out, look at their Facebook, look at their Instagram, look at, what kind of person is this? Do you really want to hire that person? Is that the kind of person who are posting all kinds of crazy stuff? You're going to probably take a second look at that person. That's got to be part of the process too. So, and then when someone isn't performing, that's the fire fast part of it. When someone isn't performing, you give them chances. You counsel them. You take time to say, this isn't working. You're not meeting the goals, the standards we've set. Here's another, take another chance. We need to give you more training, whatever it might be. But if they still can't perform, if they're still not doing the job, then you've got to you've just got to fire that person. You got to let that person go, because they're not going to excel in your organization. It's not good for them. It's not good for your organization, because you need someone who's right for the job.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I think of your book in terms of who should be reading it, really, I mean, every manager could read it to make sure they're not being a jerk, but really, who couldn't read it, right? Everybody should take that test and that litmus test to see maybe some of their things they're doing, they could be the jerk at work too.
And it goes into your personal life too. I mean,
true.
Work, it's all relationships. We all have toxic people in our lives. It could be an uncle, not a sister, right? No sister.
No,
not a sister.
God, no.
No. But our neighbor, everybody's got a neighbor who's like a total jerk, and whenever we've moved, my wife and I have moved, our family's moved, I've always like going, oh God, I hope we don't move in next to someone who's a total jerk,
I know.
because I've lived next to a jerk, and it's just terrible when you've got someone, a neighbor.
Right.
So these are all strategies. This book is full of strategies. Mostly it's about the workplace, but I mean, it could be in any part of your life, relationships that you have with other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good crossover to many things. I know. One of the places, actually, when we were in La Jolla, one of the biggest reasons I didn't want to move is because how much I loved my neighbors. And I'm like, this, we might not get so lucky again. And
right.
that was hard to leave, actually. So yeah, just like you want to escape the jerks, you don't want to leave the people that bring you joy.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Yeah. That's hard to get. That's a real hard thing to get, to have that perfect situation.
Yeah. And I had a company situation like that too, where I really, really liked the company I was working at, the people I was working at, managers. And when you have that, you feel like you've hit the jackpot,
Yeah.
So
you literally have, you definitely have.
You really have. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Peter, you are a prolific writer. You've you've written about 100 books, and you've either authored or co-authored about 100 books, and you've been a ghostwriter. So can you tell us a little bit about these different roles? Which role do you prefer? And do you have something you're most proud of?
Find out how Peter got into writing right after this quick message from Meg.
Thank you, Bobby. I just wanted to quickly break in here to share. I am now an FCD instructor, so if you would like to become a certified career counselor through the NCDA, I can now make that happen for you. I also offer career coaching and academic advising. To learn more about any of these services, please visit my website, Academic and Career Advising Services. I will include that link in the show notes. Now, back to the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a writer, and it took me a while to figure that out. It's interesting because, when I went to college, I majored in human biology. I was pre-med, and I flunked out of pre-med, because I discovered in college that I'm not a quantitative person. I'm a qualitative person. I'm a what person. I'm not a numbers person. So part of the winnowing process in college was helping me realize that I'm not a numbers person. So I was not going to excel in chemistry. I was not going to excel in physics. I was not going to excel in statistics and probability. I figured that out real quick. So I eventually got a job being a contract negotiator for the government. Then I became a manager working in a software development company, managing people in operations. So I was, accounting, purchasing, contracts, all that stuff. But on the side, as I was working this full-time job being a manager, I started writing books. A friend of mine came to me and said, I want you to write a book about negotiation, which was kind of my thing. And so I wrote a book about negotiation. I said, I've written a book. I'll never have to write a book again. I've checked that box. I've filled that bucket. I've done that thing. Never have to do it again. Well, then he said, I want you to do this other book. And I said, okay, I'll do this other book. So anyway, on the side, as sort of a side hustle kind of thing, I started writing books. And I would work full time at my regular career job, being a manager. And then at lunch and at night, I would, after my wife went to bed, I'd go off and start writing. And I did more and more of that. So one day I got laid off along with 15 other managers. We all got laid off. And I said, it's okay. I'm writing full time essentially. So I'll just write more books. And they called me back the next day and said, we found 6 months more money. Come on back. And I said, no, I think I'm just going to do this writing thing. I've been writing full time ever since. I found my place in the world. I found what I'm supposed to do. I wasn't supposed to be a manager. I wasn't supposed to be a doctor. I wasn't supposed to be all the things I thought I was going to be when I was in college. I found out later that I really was supposed to be a writer. And I love to write. I mean, and the thing that I love the most about it, aside from the writing process itself, which I actually do, I love to write, it's the amazing people that I meet. I've met the most amazing people. I ghostwrite a lot. I ghostwrite for CEOs of tech companies, for example, in the Silicon Valley. I'm just working on a book right now with a venture capital guy, big venture capital firm in Palo Alto. I've written books. There's this TV show called Dance Moms. Abby Lee Miller, I wrote a book with her. I wrote her book about, being a dance mom, leader of dance moms. I've just met the most amazing people. And that's what I love most about what my vocation is, what my writing thing is all about, is meeting and working with these amazing people. And a lot of them become friends. They become my friends and colleagues, because you get really into their lives as a part. When you're a writer, when you write their book, it's a very personal thing.
Sure.
And you get to know them. And sometimes I'll visit them, I'll hang out with them wherever they may be. I haven't gone overseas to do a job yet, but one of my clients took me on a 10-day trip to the Philippines, because that was part of his story. Flew me over there, first class, stayed in a hotel, and it was just like, wow. I mean, I've been to Europe. I went on tour with, I did a book called Leadership Ensemble, which was with an orchestra out of New York City, Orpheus Chamber Orchestra, and we toured Europe. I was on the bus with these orchestra members and in the hotels and getting to know them and going to their concerts,
That's fantastic.
So yeah, I love what I do. I love my job.
Oh,
I can tell.
It shows you just being talking about it. First of all, you have to big thank you to that friend that had you write your first book.
Thank you, Bob Nelson. Thank you, Bob Nelson.
Shout out to Bob.
And what a privilege and joy to be able to do something you love, right? And to our listeners, right? Sometimes that doesn't happen when you're 18, 19, 20. Sometimes you don't figure these things out for a while, but I guess the point is keep searching, right? Because if you're doing something that maybe isn't bringing you joy right now, but you have to pay the bills, you have to get a paycheck, keep searching, keep trying new things. Listen to your friend when they say, hey.
And I think a great lesson in your story is just work with your strengths, really capitalize on those strengths, and that's where you're more in the flow, not fighting swimming upstream, so to speak.
And I didn't really realize it was a strength. Again, in college, I had no idea. I took one creative writing class, and that was kind of fun, but I didn't really consider myself a writer at all. And you're right. You just got to be aware. You got to be alert to it, that maybe what you're doing is not what you should be doing or will be doing, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. When I first started working out of college, I had no idea I was going to be a writer someday. That's the last thing I would have ever imagined. But 10 years later, after I was out of college, I started writing, and it became my full-time job eventually. So you've got to be alert to that. You've always got to kind of keep your ears open. Is there something I'm doing that I really like doing, and maybe I should be doing more of?
Right.
And then, like you said, when Bob comes by and says, "Hey, would you write a book for me?" Say yeah. Say yes. Say yes to the universe.
Yeah.
Say yes to the universe.
Right. And so, how did people, when you first started out and became a ghostwriter, how did people think no to reach out to you or to find you? Is it because you wrote some things previously and it tied into what their lives were like, or I don't know? How did that transition?
Yeah. The first jobs I got were, with Bob, my friend Bob.
Yeah.
And he found me a couple of these projects. And then I started just getting out there more. Like Bob had a friend who needed some writing work done, and that person had a friend who needed some writing work done. And I was writing small things at first. I wasn't writing books. I was writing like little articles. I would write articles for these people. Just little pieces. And I started just getting this kind of network of people who needed work, and then becoming kind of this referral system, I guess, where they would say, "Oh, I was happy with your work. I'm going to send a friend over. It's one of my colleagues. I'm going to send a colleague over.
Yeah.
They need some work done too." And it just sort of grew organically. I mean, I never advertised. I didn't put out advertisements. And back then, this was like mid 90s, I think, is when this sort of started snowballing. There was no internet out. The web had just been invented. There wasn't all of the social media didn't exist.
Right.
It was just
what did we do with our time?
I don't know. Yeah, there was this weird thing called a payphone. That, if you're on the road, you need to make a call. You'd have to stop at a gas station.
Oh my gosh! Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
And hope and pray you had enough change.
Exactly. So I can remember scrambling for change many times.
Yeah. Sure.
But just slowly, organically built it. And the more projects I did, the more projects I got. And the more happy customers, that's such an important part of it, is building this base of happy customers, people who like what you did.
And then
And
you get
when
referrals.
you get those referrals. And even today, that's where I get all my business. I mean, 99% of my business comes from referrals, happy customers. I work with literary agents. I worked with certain literary agents over many years, and they're always sending me work. I'm a part of some ghostwriting organizations that they're always kind of scanning the horizon, looking for ghostwriting projects. So now it just, the work comes to me. But before I had to build it little by little.
Yeah, of course. So, and then how did you become the leadership guy for Inc.?
Leadership, again, a friend. So much of the work that people get or that comes to you is I know personally it's from my friends and my network of colleagues.
Right.
So a friend of mine, a guy named Kevin Dom, he was writing on Inc. This was, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. And he said, "Yay, Peter, you ought to think about writing articles on Inc." Same kind of thing. Hey, my friend Bob, hey, you should write a book about negotiation.
Yeah.
Right.
I said, okay, well, yeah, I would like to write articles on Inc. That sounds like a good way to make some money.
Yeah, right.
And
exactly.
they pay people to write articles. It's not like you do it for free. They actually pay you to write the articles.
No,
Yeah.
right,
And so
right.
I started writing, and Kevin Dom got my foot in the door. I met the editor. This was before I started writing. I met the editor. We talked. I said, here's some article ideas that I would like to do. She said, great, let's do them. And so they hired me to write the articles, and I've done over 1,500 articles ever since. I was gonna put an expletive in there. I said a 19. 1,500.
You can actually do that on the podcast if you want.
Yeah, but there were a lot of articles. They were nice articles.
and just a big variety of topics and things. I mean, I went through some, and there's some great ones. I like one that caught my eye was the 70 remarkably inspiring quotes from Disney Plus. And but it's just, I mean, obviously you have a lot of, 10 top rated companies by Gen Zers, and there's just a lot of material and information there, but also just kind of fun to read articles as well.
Yeah, well, thank you. And one of the things, people ask me, should I start writing articles on the internet and, posting them and stuff? And I tell them, well, try to get on a platform like Inc. or Entrepreneur or whatever it might be, College Board or whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of platforms that are pre-established that have already kind of gotten a following. And I always recommend to people, try to get on one of those platforms. Don't try to build your own platform unless you're the next Mark Zuckerberg or something. Sure. Right. If you're Mark Zuckerberg, build your own platform.
Do whatever they are. Do whatever.
But otherwise, get on somebody else's platform. Like, you were talking about Disney.
Yeah.
If you Google Disney quotes, just Google Disney quotes. Guess what article comes up number 1 on Google? It's my article. It's on Disney quotes. For some reason, that article has just gotten so much attention. And it's because it was on Inc.com. If I had done my own article on my own website or on Medium or something or somewhere else, it would not be the number 1 article in the world for Disney quotes. But because I was on that platform, that Inc.com platform, it is the number 1 article.
Right. So it can be a real launching pad for writers, is what you're sharing.
Exactly. Yeah. And you need that launching pad. So again, TikTok, people, young people are using TikTok a lot. That's a great launching pad. You don't need to build your own TikTok. You need to be on TikTok. You put
a lot of content out there, and
exactly.
Eventually get noticed. Yeah. But that is tricky. Speaking of like reaching out and maybe trying to get a platform like Inc. or anything else, it's really hard as a writer to get a publicist, get a publisher, get on that platform. Even if you're a fantastic writer, just to get that first notice.
Yeah.
So how does a new writer break in? How do they get their work noticed and recognized?
Yeah. Well, I think a big part of it is offering something different than everyone else. I mean, if you were going to be a writer and start writing about how to nail an interview, there's 1,000 other people out there writing about how to nail an interview. I mean, there you can find all kinds of people writing about that. And there's all kinds of people writing books about it. And there's all kinds of people, doing podcasts about it. So you need to be unique. You need to stand out in some way. So I think what I usually advise is pick a topic that's a little bit different than what everybody else is doing. It could still be about nailing an interview, but maybe it's about nailing interviews as an LGBT person or something, or, some kind of other angle, some kind of other slant to it that maybe someone else hasn't got. What's going to make you stand out from the rest of the pack? And then approaching these platforms. So for example, Inc.com is always looking for new people, and you've got to figure out how to find that. So on Inc.com's website, somewhere buried deep within there, there's a place where you can go and pitch them and say, I've got an idea for an article, a series of articles I'd like to do. And here's my ideas.
You're setting yourself up for competition right now.
Yeah, you are setting yourself up for competition, but you're getting potentially onto a platform that'll get you noticed.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah.
So, but again, be a little different than everybody else. What's everybody else doing? Be a little different.
That's great advice. I love that. Okay, so hey, we've covered the book, The Jerks at Work. We really wanted to talk about your writing, and we've covered that. Go check out Peter on his website, petereconomy.com. Is that right?
That's the one.
That's the one. And because right there, you'll see you have links to your Inc. articles. All of his books are up there too. So you can see all the many, many books he's either written himself or has been a ghostwriter on. And so you have definitely worked with some fascinating people. I had to check out a few myself. And the venture capitalists that you're working with coming up in Palo Alto, do you mind sharing what VC?
I probably shouldn't say it.
Okay.
At this point, I think I've got some kind of thing I signed that says I'm not supposed to talk about it.
Probably did. That's okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, but they're big. I mean, they're multinational. So big firm. Yeah, that's part of the interesting part about being a ghostwriter is sometimes I can't talk about it.
I know.
It seems like you can pretty much write on any subject. Is that?
I think I can. And I think if you ask me to write a book like right now on anything, I could start writing it because I just always have ideas in my head. I think I know a lot about a lot of things, and it may not be the perfect book, but I could write something about it. Name a topic and I'll write something about it for sure.
What a gift. Jeez.
That's incredible. Would you like to share with our listeners any services you may offer or anything you would like to?
Yeah, well, what I definitely do, I mean, I ghostwrite books, and I'm always, looking for new projects. But, I think as a free kind of thing, I mean, I'm always happy to talk to people. Like people reach out to me on LinkedIn and ask for advice. What do you tell me about the publishing industry? Do you think my idea is good? I mean, how did you get into writing? And I love to talk to people. I love to, no charge. I'm just happy to kind of give the knowledge, the experience I've gained over the years, kind of give that back, pay it forward. So, anybody out there that's listening who wants to reach out to me, please feel free on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm there. Just look at Peter Economy, LinkedIn. You can get hold of me there. I'm always happy to talk to people and just give my advice.
That's really generous.
That was very generous. And we'll include all those links in the show notes just in case anybody's driving or busy doing something.
Right. Don't look at your phone. Don't, no,
don't do that.
Don't look at LinkedIn while you're driving.
Yeah.
No, bad move for sure. Okay. So at the end of our podcast, we used to call it rapid fire. We're calling it quick questions now because rapid is never rapid. But the questions are quick. The answers don't have to be. So,
okay.
What is your least favorite and most favorite thing about technology?
My least favorite thing about technology is you've always got to keep up with it. I'm always having to update my, Apple Watch, my iPhone. Every year I'm getting a new iPhone, So I just hate the fact.
Addicts.
Yeah.
People that can't see, we're all showing up.
We're
all wearing an Apple Watch.
That I just updated mine yesterday. It took like 17 hours or whatever.
Oh God. Yeah. And I hate that I've got to actually physically, update it, all this, clear off my information and get it onto the new platform. So I hate that.
Right.
But what I love about it is that it's just so powerful. I mean, it does so much. It's so much a part of my life now. I mean, I'm an Apple geek, Apple fanboy, whatever you want to call it. I've got an Apple, iMac. I've got my iPhone. I've got my Apple Watch. I've got,
I got your book right here.
I mean, I just, it's just become a part of my life, and it's ubiquitous, so I love it. I hate it. I love it.
I know.
For sure.
I know. It is a love-hate relationship, isn't it?
Exactly.
Okay. Have you ever done an extreme sport like skydiving, bungee jumping? Or would you if you haven't?
I want to, and I got really close to skydiving. We have a glider port. You may recall, that we have this glider port out here, Bobby, where there's this huge cliff in La Jolla.
Yep.
It's called, and it's over Black's Beach. It's called
Yep.
Torrey Pines State Park kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's a glider port there. And I want to do I want to do one of those tandem
glider too.
hang glider, whatever you call it.
I wanted to do that. Yeah. So let's both put that on our list.
That's on my bucket list. So I'm gonna do that before it's all done with. So yeah, and it's right there. It's like 10 minutes away from my house. So I should be out there. Yeah. And I just and there's this one thing that I just saw on the news where there's a guy there that has these raptors, these like hawks and stuff that he keeps, and you can actually fly with these hawks. They're trained to fly along with you, and they'll land, and you can feed them while you're flying and stuff. It's like, so it's like, okay, I've got to do that.
Now,
now that's pretty
double
cool.
the experience. Okay,
exactly.
All right, I'm in. All right, do you have a green thumb?
I kind of do. I mean, I used to love. I used to live back east in the D.C. area, Washington D.C. area, and I used to have a garden at my mom's house out there, and I used to love to grow corn. And corn liked me, and here in San Diego, in La Jolla, we grow tomatoes,
right?
And we grow the most amazing tomatoes, and there's nothing like corn off the plant. I mean, you can eat corn. I don't know if many people know, but if you just pick it off the plant fresh, then you can eat it right then without even cooking it. It's so sweet.
Sure can.
It's incredibly sweet. And then tomatoes. These tomatoes are to die for out here. So I mean, they get that hot sun, and oh boy, they're so good.
Yeah.
But yes, I can grow tomatoes and corn. I got that covered pretty well.
Okay.
Well, that's two important things.
Yeah, exactly. And
two big food groups.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. A little green thumb. That's awesome. All right. What is your idea of fun, or what do you like to do for fun?
Well, fun for me is going on trips with my wife. So we just had our 33rd wedding anniversary a couple of weeks ago. Thank you. Yeah. We went to Vegas. We're in the COVID. We've been in this COVID mode for the last year.
Yeah.
And it was just so nice to get on an airplane, to go travel. We love to travel. Hawaii is kind of our happy place. So we go to Hawaii a lot. Yeah. And that's fun to me. We'll go to Hawaii, we'll get a place, we'll start drinking Mai Tais, kicking back, listening to Hawaiian music, the little hula action. Sure. To me, that's a lot of fun. So that's, we love to travel, and I'm, glad we're getting to travel again.
Oh, I know. It feels like such a release. I went to a wedding 2 weekends ago, and it just, we're dancing, we're hugging. So
it's crazy.
It was great.
Yeah.
You feel like you're getting away with something.
We do feel like we're getting away with something for sure.
All right. Can you describe your breakfast in one word?
Late. I'm kind of a habitual bruncher, I guess. I don't usually eat until around 11 or almost 12 o'clock. That's the way I do it. I usually have a cup of coffee when I get up, and then I usually work. I'm usually doing emails and sometimes interviews and working on a book or something. So usually by the time I get around to eating, it's around 11 or 12 o'clock. So I'm a late eater. Yeah. And usually then it's something simple. For some reason, I'll slice off a piece of bread. There's a bakery nearby here in La Jolla. Yeah. There's a great bakery, and we get these big seeded loaves. And I every week I get one of those, and I just work my way through it all week. And so it's late, and it's usually a big slice of bread.
That sounds yummy. And I should have known you could come up with one word as being a writer. I didn't struggle at all.
Yeah, that was not a challenge for him at all.
Okay. What do you do to de-stress?
I play music. I play guitar. I'm I don't know if you can see in the background there's that guitar. Mm-hmm. And
Gibson.
I've been in bands, in and out of bands. I love to play parties, pool parties. I'm not a big person to play in bars, because usually when you play in a bar, you start at like 9 o'clock and you're done at 1 o'clock.
Right.
And by the time you get home, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. That's just not I'm usually asleep.
Right.
I mean, what happened? So I don't like that, but I love to play pool parties, and that's just a great way to de-stress. And I just love playing in front of people, like doing a lead guitar solo, and people go, wow, or they you can tell they're really kind of getting into it. So it's a big de-stressor for me. And it's another one of those fun things I like to do.
Wow.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun. Do you have a favorite genre of music? Or
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of, I was born in 1956, back in ancient times. And so rock and roll, I mean, 70s rock and roll, Boston, the Rolling Stones, you name it. I just love to play that stuff. So that's I'm kind of stuck in the past, I guess.
That's all right.
Love
That's
it.
good music by any age standard.
They call it classic rock for a reason.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It is classic. Okay. What's your favorite thing about where you live?
Well, we're about 1.5 miles from the beach. So, I mean, I just love the ocean. And in San Diego here, and I don't know, anybody that lives anywhere near the coast of California knows that we have this natural air conditioning machine off the ocean is our air conditioning machine. The ocean we have a cold ocean. East coasters, if you live on the East Coast, or you live on the Gulf Coast, your water is usually pretty warm. I mean, it'll get pretty warm and you don't have to wear a wetsuit or anything like that. Here in California, we get the water comes down from the Gulf of Alaska and it's kind of cold. Like right now, I think the water temperature is 65 degrees, which that's pretty cold.
Yeah. And
so, but we have this cool air coming in off the ocean all the time. Our house doesn't have an air conditioner because we don't really need it. We'll have maybe 1 week of the year where we need an air conditioner. So I love the beach, love going to the beach, love seeing the ocean, love that onshore breeze of cool air that we get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's how I feel about that San Diego area. I keep bringing up this quote. It seems to be relevant all the time. But again, one of my neighbors had said, the weather's not perfect, but it's never bad. It's always whether you can get out and do stuff in. Almost always, like 99.9% of the time.
Yeah. And we have such an interesting variety. I mean, here in San Diego, I mean, you have the beach, you have mountains within an hour, and it's snow. I mean, 7,000-foot mountains with snow in the wintertime where you can go sledding and stuff. And then there's deserts, there's every kind of possible thing except rain. We don't have rainforests here, but pretty much anything else you might ever want to do. And like you said, hiking, biking, surfing, skiing, you name it, you can do it within an hour of here.
I know.
It's amazing.
Love it. Yeah. Absolutely love it. Okay. Worst trouble you get into as a kid?
Oh God. Oh geez. I'll tell one of these. I've never said this to anybody, but I mean, outside of my family, I used to be a little thief. I mean, talking about credit thief, I was a little shoplifter, and it only lasted like about twice because the second time I did it with a friend of mine, his mom caught us.
Oh, sure.
What it was I stole a candy bar. It was like I think it was a Butterfinger. For some reason, I love Butterfinger candy bars. So, my friend and I we went to this grocery store nearby that was near our house. And I think the first time we got away with it, we stole this Butterfinger candy bar and we shared it. And it was like, wow, this is great. Second time, his mom caught us. And she was like, if you guys ever do this again, boy, you are going to be in the worst trouble ever. I'm going to tell your father. I'm going to tell your mom. Right. I'm going to, you're going to be in such big trouble. And that was the last time. I was like, okay, I swore off of my life of thievery. I was on the straight and narrow after that. So that was the worst thing I did as a kid. And that was pretty bad at the time, I'll tell you.
Yeah, of course. And she might have saved you from a life of crime. You don't know.
I think I'm glad whatever she saved me from, I'm glad it happened. And I'm glad it was just only on the second time. I'm glad it wasn't the 10th time then the store when it caught me, that might have been even worse.
Yeah. Better for the mom. I'm glad she didn't tell your parents.
That's a good story though.
All right.
That's funny. I've never told anybody that story.
I'm getting out getting out all your secrets.
Yeah, now no more questions because I'm afraid where we're going to go next. I don't want to.
Two more.
What's the worst thing you did in college? Don't ask me that.
Oh, I didn't think of that one. No,
don't even. Let's not go there.
I'm teasing you, Peter. Okay, first car.
Oh, wow. Well, the first car I had was our family car. It was a station wagon. It was a 1968 Dodge Coronet 500 station wagon.
Rockin'.
And, I remember I drove that car to college. One time I was driving from our parents lived in Washington, D.C. area. Mm-hmm. And I had to go to school in Northern California. So I drove that car across country and somewhere, I think it was in Wyoming. All of a sudden, and it was night. It was probably like 2 a.m. I was in Wyoming. The car kind of sputtered to a stop. and I'm on the freeway, I'm on the interstate in Wyoming, and there's like one car every 10 minutes,
Yeah.
This is back in the 70s, and it was
Right.
literally
There's
one car.
no cell phone or AAA.
No gas station even with a payphone anywhere nearby.
Yeah.
So this guy stops, and he said, and I said, thanks for stopping because my car stopped. And he says, well, and I'm from Alaska, and he had Alaska plates. and if you don't stop for someone, they die. I mean, if you don't help someone who needs help in Alaska, they could freeze to death. They could a bear could eat them. You name it. Anything could happen. So anyway, so he stopped, and what it turned out is that my shock absorber had broken. Mm-hmm. The car was all of a sudden doing this up and down, and it broke my fuel line was broken. Oh, no. But that was my old family station wagon, the old 1968 Dodge Coronet. We got it fixed. I got to school, and everything was great after that. But anyway, that's my first car story.
Yeah, that's a great story, and I'm sure you have some other memories in that car, but I won't ask.
Oh, that is very true, and we shouldn't go there too. But
18-year-old is probably
that was a very nice thing to have. It was okay.
I think you should write a book on that.
I could write a book about that. Now that you mentioned, I could write a book
family
about that.
Station wagon.
Okay, last one. Favorite day of the week?
Oh boy. The good news about working for yourself is that every day can be a holiday or every day can be a work day. But I like Saturday because Saturday becomes my wife and I, that's sort of our day off.
Nice.
And we'll just, we'll say, we'll have a margarita. We'll take the day off, I'll go and do things. We'll go shopping. We'll just do something special that's not work related. So every Saturday is kind of our day off. It's our, so Saturday.
I love that. But hey, you nailed those 10 quick questions.
Wow. They were, I didn't even know there was 10 of them. Wow.
I know. Yeah.
You absolutely did, and entertained us in the process. So that was great. Yeah. Peter, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing all your amazing tips. And everybody should rush out and buy Wait, I'm Working with Who. Chock full of great advice and tips. And so thanks.
Thank you, Meg. Thank you, Bobby. Really appreciate being on the show. I had a blast. I'd love to just do the 10 questions all over again.
I know. I know. Well, I have some 10 more, a little bit more probing. No, just kidding. Peter, thank you so much. You're a joy, you're a delight, and very helpful material that you're writing for people.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here today. Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Okay. Well, hey, enjoy the rest of your day, and who wouldn't in La Jolla? So.
And everybody avoid those jerks at work.
Yeah.
They're out there. They're
definitely out there. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much, Peter, for coming on our podcast. And it was just, as we said earlier, a great conversation. And you're such a talented person. And we wish you much success with your book, Wait, I'm Working with Who. And hopefully everybody will head on over to wherever you buy your books and pick it up.
Yep, definitely do that. And Peter, you owe me the hang gliding experience off Black's Beach, and I'm holding you to it. Okay.
Absolutely. So everybody, thank you for tuning in and listening. We appreciate all our listeners so much. And don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, help us out, follow us on social media.
Yes, it's a great way to show us the love. Have a great rest of the day, everybody.
Look forward to next time. And this has been an Academic and Career Advising Services production.